Welcome to the Football Debates podcast. I'm your host, Mike Debates. In this episode, we're going to continue our discussion about a developmental football league. Previous episode, I talked about how I think the NFL should fund a developmental football league that would help players, coaches, and officials continue to progress in their professional journey. I also mentioned in an episode about college football realignment how the NFL doesn't have a minor league system. Baseball, hockey, the NBA, and even racing, like NASCAR racing, they have lower leagues or lower levels where drivers can enhance their skills, progress, move up, and get to the top tier. The NFL doesn't have that. So this is a way to get those undrafted college players, the practice squad players, or the players at the end of the roster a chance to develop their skills and continue that professional journey. Again, all these players would have to be 27 years old or younger at the start of the developmental league season. They'd have to be practice squad players, or if they were players on an NFL roster, they would have to have been inactive for 10 or more games from the previous season. This is not a league for Matthew Stafford or Baker Mayfield or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen to continue to develop their skills. This is for the lower roster players and a chance to continue their NFL journey. In this episode, we're going to look at how we're going to break those players up and how we're going to divide them among the potential teams. I'm going to look at a potential domestic league, a potential European league, and a potential international league. For starters, I'm going to look at an 8-team domestic league based on the cities of the United Football League right now. To start with, we'd be looking at Birmingham, Alabama. And they would get players from the Falcons, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Vikings. So they would get 3 to 5 players from an NFC South team, an NFC East team, an NFC West team, and an NFC North team. These players would be part of this Birmingham squad. They would be the NFL practice squad players or the end of the roster players, combined with those college free agents or undrafted players that would continue to develop. Next, we have Columbus. They would get players from the Cardinals, Packers, Commanders, and Panthers. Dallas would get players from the Cowboys, Buccaneers, Bears, and the Rams. Houston would be getting their players from the Texans, Jets, Steelers, and Chargers. Louisville would get their players from the Lions, Saints, Giants, and Seahawks. Oklahoma City would get their players from the Browns, the Patriots, the Jaguars, and the Broncos. St. Louis would draw their players from the Chiefs, Dolphins, Bengals, and Titans, and Washington with the players from the Bills, Colts, Ravens, and Raiders. Right now, Oklahoma City doesn't have a team. The United Football League is looking at expanding to Oklahoma City here in the next couple of years. I think a professional team, of a professional football team, or in this case, a minor league football team in Oklahoma would be a great fit. Football is crazy in Oklahoma. It's a great state supporting football. But these are just some of the cities and how I'd have these players divided up. Nothing is set in stone. You could always move these teams around, adjust what NFL teams are contributing. But I tried to keep AFC teams together and NFC teams together. One thing that I would like to see potentially in the future is if this developmental league did progress and if the NFL funded it and backed it, spreading to more NFL lacking markets. So maybe not have teams in Dallas and Houston and Washington, D.C., although some of these leagues, the USFL and United Football League, they've tried that, having teams in cities that don't have an NFL team, and they've had mixed results. Some have been successful, some have not. But maybe looking at putting a team in Portland, Oregon, or Salt Lake City, Utah, as examples of cities that do have other professional sports franchises, that have high-level minor leagues for some of these teams. Maybe these teams could help and be a host city for some of this developmental football. Now, if we don't have a domestic league, let's look at an international league or European league. And I took these cities, many of them from what was previously NFL Europe in the 90s. We'll start with Amsterdam. They would get players from the Cowboys, Buccaneers, Bears, and the Rams. And I kept these teams' groupings together like I did the same groups with the domestic league. And you have Barcelona, we get players from the Falcons, Eagles, Vikings, 49ers. Berlin, players from the Bills, Colts, Ravens, and Raiders. Frankfurt, Texans, Jets, Steelers, Chargers. London would draw their players from the Lions, Saints, Giants, and Seahawks. Madrid, Browns, Patriots, Jaguars, Broncos. Rome would get players from the Cardinals, Packers, Commanders, and Panthers. And Scotland would get players from the Chiefs, Dolphins, Bengals, and Titans. And yes, I know Scotland is not a city, but they previously had a team in the NFL Europe League. So that's what I would do if we did a domestic league or a European league. But what if this did have success? What if the NFL did decide to back it and they wanted to go international? Have 8 teams in the United States, have 8 teams in Europe. Then the NFL could get something that they've kind of thought about or are looking at potentially having, which is a Super Bowl internationally. Right now, London is a favored site to host a Super Bowl if the NFL ever took the Super Bowl and put it outside of the United States. I think that would be a mistake. It's an American game. The American fans, I don't think, would like that. And I think the Super Bowl for the NFL should stay in the United States. But if we did an international league, they could have the Super Bowl played overseas every year. This would be an opportunity for the fans to see these potential NFL players on a championship level. It would be a draw in the spring and summer outside of the normal NFL season. And if we did that, we would have to adjust what teams are paired together. So looking at a 16-team international league, we would start with Birmingham. They would get players from the Falcons and the Dolphins. Columbus will get players from the Lions and the Bengals. Dallas, the Cowboys and the Colts. Houston, the Texans and the Giants. Louisville will get players from the Titans and the Eagles. Oklahoma City, the Saints and the Patriots. St. Louis, Chiefs and the Buccaneers. And Washington, the Ravens and the Commanders. Now I changed this to 2 teams, one AFC team and one NFC team. Maybe we could potentially move from 3 to 5 players if it was just an 8-team league up to 7 players from each team. So 7 practice squad players or end of the roster players. So that way these teams, if we did a 16-team league, they'd still get 14 players from the NFL level. Maybe you could bump it up to 8 players from each team. That would give you 16 players. 10 might be a little much because we are also trying to develop those undrafted college football players or the players that were drafted and were cut by teams and didn't catch on anywhere else. Those players potentially still could have NFL dreams and NFL abilities. They just need to be on a different team or in a different setting to maybe have that success. So if we did the international or European teams, Amsterdam will get players from the Rams and the Chargers. Barcelona will get players from the Seahawks and the Steelers. Berlin, Raiders and 49ers. Frankfurt would draw their players from the Broncos and the Cardinals. Hamburg, the Vikings and the Jets. London, the Bills and the Packers. Rome, the Panthers and the Jaguars. And Scotland, players from the Bears and the Browns. And I think that this would be a potentially good fit. An international league. 8 domestic cities, 8 European cities, having them as their own conferences, just like the AFC and the NFC, and then the winner of each conference play in a sense, the International Super Bowl, and play that in various sites in Europe, whether it would be London or Berlin or whatever the host city is for some of these European teams. I think that would be a way for the NFL to continue to grow the game. It would provide that additional boost in the NFL offseason to their European markets. And I think it would be a way to expand the horizons of players and coaches and the officials. It would give them all full-time work year-round. Yes, it would be a lot more stress on families and on the players' bodies. But if the NFL wants to grow the game, as opposed to risking player safety and having more NFL games where players are traveling all the time, this would have some of those fringe NFL players whose names may still be known by fans. They would play on an international stage, and it would give everyone a benefit of better quality of play, long-term, round-the-clock, basically NFL action. The NFL basically dominates or is dominating media right now. They've taken over Thanksgiving. The NFL is moving to take over Christmas from the NBA. For years, the only games you saw on Christmas were NBA games. Now the NFL is adjusting their schedule to have games on Christmas and Black Friday, which was traditionally a college game day. That's usually the big rivalry weekend of college football. The NFL is moving to take over that. Let's bring the NFL back in, rein them back in, keep their games more on just the Thursdays and the Sundays. College football have their day in the fall. And then in the spring and summer, the NFL can have, in a sense, control of the market, of the broadcasting on weekends with this developmental league. Domestic teams, international leagues, teams playing each other. Teams can go on 2-game road trips. For example, Dallas could go play London and Scotland for 2 weeks and then come home for 2 weeks and play 2 of the European teams. But the schedule is something that can be worked out if we eventually were to go to this model. But I think the NFL should go to a model like this. It would be a minor league level in between that college and NFL level where those players could develop, enhance their skills, and eventually everyone would win. The NFL owners would make money. Players, coaches, and officials could have year-round work, follow and achieve their dreams, and enhance their skills. And we as fans in the long run, I think, would benefit by having a better quality product on Sundays in the fall with the NFL. And I think if the NFL backed this league financially, various TV deals, promoting the league, and showing that you have big name college players that are playing over the course of the summer that would draw some fans in. I think this is a win-win all the way around for everyone involved, potentially, if it's done right. But that's how I would divide up the players for this developmental league. Don't forget to watch the other episode on this, where I break down how we would set up this league. And don't forget to check out the college football realignment, where I talk a little bit about having a minor league system for the NFL. Once again, this has been the Football Debates Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Debates. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you on our next episode.